Welcome to the stream. How y'all doing? Sam Fram, thank you for the 40th month. I'm here today to talk about $1 Million Secrets. Of course, later today we'll be doing some survivoring. But in the meantime, talking some $1 Million Secret. Generally, I think how this is going to work is that I'm going to start streaming on YouTube as soon as I start doing the talk. So if you're not caught up or you don't want to be spoiled or whatever, you can watch it over on YouTube after the fact or here if you want to watch the VOD on Twitch. Yeah, that's the general plan. Talking some $1 Million Secret. I think it's been fun. I have enjoyed it. Let me this show. And then yeah, feel free to ask questions along the way. I think this is going to be like full spoilers for the second batch of episodes. So, all right, I'm going to start up the YouTube stream and then we're going to just jump straight in. $1 Million Secret. That's what we're talking about today. The second batch of episodes for $1 Million Secret. I want to talk about it. I want to talk about the strategy that these people are using in this show, and how they're playing this game. It's very interesting. Haven't started it yet. Am I liking it? I am liking it. It's fun. It's a fun show. I have some like little bits here and there that I'm like, like, are the advantages and disadvantages and like powers and stuff, are they well balanced? Like, it seems a little, some of them are very powerful, some of them are less powerful. But I wanted to just chat about this second batch of episodes because what I do think is very fun is just like the way that the game continues to change. Because basically, if you didn't know, $1 Million Secret, the new Netflix show, this is the show. It released its second batch of episodes, so episodes 4, 5, and 6. The basic premise is that there were 12 players. Randomly, one of them is assigned the $1 million in their hotel room. And it's up to the other contestants to vote out the person with the $1 million, the one who has it. So it's, if you find the $1 million in your suitcase, briefcase, whatever, then it is up to you to hide that fact from everyone else. That is the general consensus, the general goal. But the problem is that, over time, the rest of the cast gets clues as to who you are as the $1 million holder, the millionaire they call them. So it's really, and the clues are very powerful. So it's really very difficult to avoid detection. So the end result is that the millionaire really just needs to survive a couple of rounds just long enough to be able to pass it off to somebody else again and not piss everybody off in the process so that they want to vote you out even after you're not the millionaire anymore. Jess, thank you for the 55th month. So what's interesting is that, similar to The Traitors, this show has a premise that should be broken by the fact that you don't really need to vote out a millionaire. In fact, if anything, because the millionaire then passes the money off to somebody else often anyway, you have even less incentive to vote out the millionaire because it's going to pass anyway. The votes are really the main thing that matters. And controlling the votes is important. But in order to put a little bit of a wrinkle into that, in the second batch of episodes, and I'm going to be full spoiling the second batch of episodes here, 4, 5, and 6. They introduced the kill shot. So previously, they've had the millionaire have like a couple of extra votes, perhaps, or maybe negating some votes, which can help them win the day in the elimination vote. But in this one, it's like you full on just have the sole vote to eliminate. So there is some reason to be like, well, I don't want to just let the millionaire run rampant and decide exactly the combination of players they'd like to keep around. So there's actually a lot of potential nuance that can go into the strategy. Very few of them, I would say, are using any of that nuance. There are a couple of attempts, but most of them are just searching for the millionaire and voting out the millionaire. But what's interesting is that they, again, and I said this last time, this show is not afraid of their format. The traders will do everything in their power to hide how the players are actually feeling and thinking and playing, because their format is completely busted. There's never a reason to actually vote out a trader unless you think you might be like recruited and you want to be a trader yourself. And so they have to like really hide and pretend, and it's a whole mess over there on the traders. $1 Million Secret, they are airing these confessionals about like, well, I know this person is the trader, but do I need to vote them out? And in fact, we see here in the first episode, the guy that is just fully caught, Phil, makes the argument. He's like, listen, even if you think I'm the millionaire, you don't have to vote me out. This doesn't have to go that way. Now, it has gone that way every time so far, for the most part. But they're not afraid of like exposing the fact that it doesn't have to go that way, which I think is very good. And especially because they're starting to run out of time. They're getting to the point where the end of the game is approaching, and now it actually does matter that you vote out the millionaire, and you need to make sure you know who it is, because if the game ends with them holding the $1 million, they win. So now alliances, relationships have to be thrown out the window, because you do have to find out who it is, and you do have to vote them out and hope that you then receive it afterwards. I'm very curious to see. So they started with 12. They're now down, I think they voted out one person per episode. So like, I think they're down to 6, if I'm remembering correctly. Let me just quickly do a count. I'll bring this back up on the screen. This is, again, full spoilers now at this point for the second batch, but Sydney is in. Corey's still in. Sam, that's 3, 4, 5. He's out. She's out. And Jamie's in. 6. Yeah. So they're down to 6. There's 2 more votes, which is interesting. So they're going to go down to a final 4, at which point perhaps the millionaire just wins, which would be kind of wild. Like, I will say there's definitely a way that this end game is just like terrible in the sense that like you just were never randomly selected to get the $1 million, and you never had the opportunity to ever get it. Which I guess would imply like, hey, you should have been voting out more millionaires more frequently, and then you might have had a better chance to get it. But the reality is that even if you had gotten it earlier, it's basically impossible to win as the millionaire from early on. So it's really just a matter of like who gets lucky enough to get it in the end game, which makes me think that surely there's some kind of method to control who gets the $1 million near the end. Like, some kind of influence, like some way to have some kind of influence over who gets the $1 million. Surely. Because ultimately there's a good chance that it's just like what, like if, for instance, what happens if you vote, that the final vote, you vote out the millionaire? Is it just like, okay, now one of you four randomly is selected to be the winner? I doubt it. So there must be some kind of end game they have in mind. And I'm interested to see what it is. But it's interesting. It's an interesting game. Let me just quickly run through the events. We talked, so Philip was the millionaire at the end of the first batch of episodes. Fully got caught. Fully got caught because he got himself into a tie vote scenario. Now I will say, I don't think it's entirely his fault, because basically this idea of like, the millionaire breaks the tie, I'm assuming he didn't know that ahead of time. Once he gets into the tie vote situation and it's told to him that the millionaire breaks the tie, he could switch his vote, yes. But he then would basically have to admit to switching his vote. Because if he doesn't admit to switching his vote, then everyone knows that the millionaire is one of those votes, and it's the same scenario. If he admits to switching his vote, then it puts almost even more suspicion on him. Because did you switch your vote because you were afraid of the tie going in your favor? Like, and then being exposed as the millionaire? Like, it's a tricky situation no matter which way he goes, I think. So, you know, tough situation there. But it basically gets him caught. And then here's the thing. His task is to get people to scream. I think the way he goes about it is bad. He's like, can we just let out some emotion and all scream? Which I just like couldn't be more suspicious. To his credit, he genuinely chipped his tooth, which I think would be an awful experience to have while filming a TV show. But man, getting everyone to like, let's all just scream into the void, like, couldn't be more suspicious. And then but then on top of that, the clue, their task had something to do with a popular horror movie. It's like, he was just dead to rights. I think the only way to have done this without getting any heat on yourself is like planting a fake spider on somebody's bed and then not getting caught doing that. And then so somebody screams, but nobody knows who did it. But you have to get like multiple people to scream. So you'd have to do it multiple times. And you'd have to have a fake spider. And the person would have to scream. And that's the thing too, is that like the millionaires don't know what the clues are ahead of time. So like later on, Sam does the Justin Timberlake thing, and the clue is completely irrelevant to that task. So she's basically free to do the Justin Timberlake thing as many times as she wants, and it's not really that big of a deal. Whereas the scream thing immediately gets called out. So like, you don't really know what clue is going to screw you over and which clue is going to be irrelevant. But he's dead to rights. They try to get a vote to keep him regardless. But it falls on him anyway. They want to vote out a millionaire. And this is where it just doesn't make sense to me, because like there's a bunch of things you can do here. I think if you're Phil and you have allies, you can tell your allies, yeah, I've been caught. I'm a terrible millionaire. I I clearly am bad at this. Here's the deal though. I did succeed in my mission, and my mission was to change who the millionaire is after this vote. I'm obviously voting with you. I'm the reason why we won the vote last time. Why not just keep me around and vote out somebody who's not voting with you? Somebody that would be harder to read in the future because they're going to have the $1 million. You know that if it ever comes back to me after this, I'm going to be caught in an instant. And I'm voting with you anyway. Like, keep me around. And that's really, really good logic. But the problem is that, like, some of these people are just not playing that way. They're just like, they saw, like, oh, we caught someone, we want to vote them out. We don't want to look like idiots, is I think essentially what they were feeling. But that, I think, would have been a really sound argument. So ultimately they vote Philip out, and it passes to Sam, who is a cop but hasn't told anyone. She's been pretty good with her reads. I think she actually does a great job staying under the radar. But she makes a couple of key mistakes as well, I think. The first of which is, in fact, I think she's doing a fantastic job, like, all the way through. She does, like, the ring thing. I thought the way she did that task or whatever was so clever. Like, yeah, I hear that ring. Like, that was good. She gets the kill shot. Nobody's really looking at her except for Chris. I just feel like the kill shot was such an unforced error. So, Sam, seemingly working with Lydia, Chris is against her, who is working with Sydney, who is working with Corey. Like, all of those people are kind of working together, but Sam is kind of working with Lydia and Kara, right? Like, that's seemingly, I think, what they've been. Oh, and Jamie's working with like Chris and Corey and Sydney, seemingly. So it's kind of like a 4-3 situation. At least that's what it feels like watching the episodes. Sam decides, I'm going to use my kill shot to take out my ally, Lydia, because nobody will see that coming. Nobody will suspect that it's me that did that because Lydia is my ally. The issue I have with that is that it leaves in Chris, who is super suspicious of her. It leaves in Sydney, who's working closely with Chris, who's working closely with Corey, who's working closely with Jamie. And it's just like, even if you do get the suspicion onto one of them and they take one of themselves out, they still then have the numbers after that. It's just not a good scenario. And with the way that these clues tend to work, like, you're gonna get caught anyway. You're gonna be in the hot seat. I just don't see the situation where that makes sense. I think you take the easy vote and you take out Sydney, which weakens Chris, or you just full on take out Chris. Like, why not? Just take that shot. That might get you caught a lot quicker, but at least it takes out one of the numbers on the other side, and then you can make the same argument. Like, hey, it's gonna pass. Keep me around. If you don't have the relationships to do that, and that's too risky, which would make some sense, just take the easy shot and do Sydney. Sydney leaves. You still have Lydia. You still have Kara. Are they going to suspect you? Maybe. But you can continue to make those arguments. And if you get them on your side, you have 3 votes almost guaranteed. If you then win an extra vote and you can break a tie, like, there are just different ways that this can really help. I just feel like there's this instinct, and it's the same thing on the traders. It's the same thing on the traders. People do this on the traders all the time. They kill their allies because they're like, oh, if I kill my allies, nobody's going to suspect that I was the one that did it. But like having an ally is so much more valuable than a theoretical argument that I wouldn't have killed my ally in most situations. Because all it takes to completely negate the advantage you get from killing your own ally is somebody going, well, what if they did it just to get suspicion off of themselves? And just like that, you're potentially back at square one. But if you have an actual loyal ally, that can't be negated by somebody making an argument. That's an ally. That's a number that you just straight up have. That's a person that will vote with you. That's a person who can be suspected next to you. Like, allies are just so much more valuable. People in these games just don't understand that they're all numbers games. All of them. It's so silly. Every single one of these games can be broken by just having numbers. That's what Big Brother players figured out long ago. Anyway, I thought that was a very silly move. Then she makes another unforced error. The clue is that the millionaire's lying about their profession. She's lying about being a cop. And then in a conversation, there's two things she does I don't like in the third episode, Samantha. In the conversation where they're waiting for the clue to be revealed, she finishes her Justin Timberlake task. I thought that was a wild decision to make because in the previous two millionaire situations, the second clue has always been about the task they performed. The Scream thing, the greatest hits thing. The last thing I want to do as a millionaire is do my Justin Timberlake task right before the guy's going to come back with the clue that might have something to do with Justin Timberlake. Like, at least wait for the clue to be revealed, then do your Justin Timberlake thing, right? Like, that's what I was thinking. Didn't end up costing her anything because that wasn't the clue wasn't Justin Timberlake related. But man, that was wild. But then also in that conversation, she talks about having a police friend, which theoretically shouldn't have cost her anything. But like, why are you even saying that? If the goal is to hide the fact that you're an undercover or that you're a cop or whatever, don't be talking about having friends that are cops. And it's unlucky. I mean, it was lucky that it wasn't a Justin Timberlake thing, and lucky that it eventually shifts. But like, unlucky that the task that Corey is given has something to do with police officers. But like, you have to suspect that it was already out there. It's already out there. So she squeezes by this vote with Chris leaving. And I thought Corey gets the info that Jamie is not the millionaire, and he gets a task of his own, which is that he needs to get people to say like handcuffs misdemeanor police or something. I don't know. I don't remember. I thought he had a great plan for this. Just phenomenal. He comes out, he says, I was given a clue that had something to do with these three things. They instantly say all three things. He instantly wins. Zero suspicion on him. Now, you could say that if the millionaire gets caught and they have nothing to do with any of those things, you could say like, wait, what was up with that clue, Corey? But at that point, you can either just admit, yeah, that was my task. I changed the millionaire. Or you could just say, I don't know. I can't figure it out. Obviously, I wasn't the millionaire, so it wasn't like I was lying. Maybe people can find out that you did the task, but even then, it's not the biggest deal if they figure out that you did a task. Great plan, I thought, from Corey. The weird thing from Corey, I thought, was Corey knows that the $1 million is about to jump from the millionaire to a different person after this vote. He knows that for a fact. He completed his task. It's going to change. He reluctantly suspects his friend Chris. He thinks Chris is probably the millionaire. Who cares? Who cares? He's like, oh, I'm sorry, man. I'm going to have to vote you out because you're the millionaire. But you know it's going to change. What do you mean? Who cares if he's the millionaire right now? He's not going to be in about 5 minutes. You don't need to vote him out. Even if he was the millionaire, there's zero reason you need to vote him out here. There's nothing you get from that other than losing an ally. Oh, man, just like the decisions being made. I think he's a smart guy. I think he came up with a great idea for getting that task completed. But man, this again, it could be a situation where like we're not seeing. Maybe they are hiding stuff from us. Maybe there is a deeper strategy to it. But like, just felt like a very silly conclusion to come to that you like. Oh man, I'm so sorry, bro. I just think it's you, even though it's about to not be you. I like. Yeah, just weird. Interesting stuff though. So what is interesting to me also is that like we are getting to the point where theoretically the next millionaire is in it for the long haul. Like the next millionaire can't play numbers games. Probably. They will need to play It's Not Me at All Costs, which still is probably a numbers game. Because not being suspected at the end is down to who do I have the most influence over? You know, like who is the least likely person to suspect me at the end? So again, I still wouldn't necessarily say vote out your closest ally, but that's when it might start to make some sense. Like a last minute Hail Mary. Obviously I would never vote out this person. But again, like unless you think that they won't vote with you, it just doesn't make sense most of the time. Anyway, that's basically my thoughts on $1 Million Secret batch of second batch of episodes. Let me know if you have any questions or thoughts yourself. I think it's been a fun show. I think that like I'm excited to see how they round it out. I will again say I just feel like I think it's doing decently well. But it just doesn't have the gravitas of like a Traitors. Which I think is to its downfall here. I think the host Peter is great. When he was like, this is my this is my place. I get to be where I want to be. I thought that was fun. The challenges also are like, you know, hit or miss, mostly miss, I would say. I think it was most fun when a task was being done during the challenge. So like when Sam was doing the ring thing during that challenge and like Lydia was throwing the challenge. That was kind of fun, but like honestly, I couldn't even tell you some of the challenges they did. Does it need fancy costumes and fun words to say? I mean, that's you know, I wouldn't say fancy costumes, but we're kind of close with the words to say. Do I think the edit is pointing to a winner? Okay, so let's look at the remaining players. Um, I think there are two people I would rule out as not winning the game. Kara and Jamie. I think Kara has been too invisible. She's been here or there, but it just feels like she's been, especially in this batch of episodes, like so out of the edit. Like all of the other people just have so much more content. And Jamie, I think it's possible Jamie wins, but she, I think, has had the most negative edit. With like Lydia, who I think we were supposed to like Lydia, and when Lydia calls her out on her way out, it's like, whoa. And then reminding us of like when she got into it with Lauren, like they're really making a meal of that. And I don't think it makes me dislike Jamie, but I think it would make a lot of like casual viewers be like, "Oh yeah, Jamie's mean." And then I don't think they would do that to her if she won. Um so that leaves Sam, who I think they've consistently portrayed to be really smart. Uh Corey, who I think who has also been portrayed to be pretty smart. Kyle, I think, has been portrayed to be pretty smart. And then Sydney has been this like big like figurehead. She's been talked down on a lot as well. I would say she's probably the third least likely. I think my top three would be Corey, Sam, Kyle. Um and honestly, I think I'm probably looking at Corey, Kyle. Because like Sam could have a big edit because she had this stint as the millionaire in the second batch of episodes. Sydney's been such a focal point in the edit because she's been a focal point in the game. Kara's been invisible. Jamie's had some negative content. That leaves me with Corey, who has been consistently positive, consistently present, and Kyle, who I think has been consistently positive, consistently present. Um, so those would be my top two edit wise. And then I think that also kind of tracks in terms of how the game is shaping up. I think that Kyle and Corey will likely work together moving forward. They talked about having some kind of alliance. I think Sam has burned some bridges with her stint as the millionaire. I think she's going to have some heat on her. I think Kara just doesn't have the allies necessary. Sydney has just been looked at for so long. I feel like they're not going to not vote her out at some point, and she seems to have lost most of like her major allies. And then Jamie had some heat on her, which honestly, Jamie might be poised to be in a decent position right now, if not for her edit, because she was suspected so heavily and then was proven to be innocent, which might instinctually make people feel like she's less likely to be guilty, even if she is guilty. So position wise, I would say Corey, Kyle, and Jamie are in the best spots right now. But I also don't know how the end game even works. So my plan right now, we're going to wait a week. We're going to watch the final 3 episodes, and then I'll come back on and basically give my final review of the season, and sort of like how the structure plays out. If it actually works, if the end game actually is properly balanced and functional, and if the show was any fun. That's kind of the plan. So that's the second batch. That's the second batch of episodes. Those are my thoughts. I'll be back later for Survivor. And then yeah, we'll see where things go from there. But unless there's anything else, thanks for hanging out. Quick little stream just to give my thoughts. And yeah, I think that's about it. So stay tuned tonight. Stay tuned for next week, when I give my final thoughts. And I will see all of you later tonight if you're going to watch Survivor with me.